All right, we are live. Today is Thursday, April 15th. I think the meeting agenda is labeled the 14th, but I think it's the 15th. It's the 15th where I am, which is in California. It might be the 14th in some places and the 18th and who knows. But anyway, this is Thursday. This is our weekly developer check-in meeting. And before we get started, I'd like to go around and do some quick introductions. I will be happy to start. I am Jen Lampton. I am joining from Oakland, California. I'm apologize in advance. My dog recently had surgery, and so I am dog watching. And should the mailman approach, there will be very loud barking, and I will try and mute. I think. Also, fun news for me. I'm working on a couple of really complicated Drupal to Backdrop upgrades, and so you're about to see me all over the contrib queue, which should be fun. All right, Tim.
Oh, I already unmuted. I'm Tim. It is the 15th, and I just was in the wrong date. I apologize. So everything everywhere is labeled incorrectly for the 14th. I'll work on fixing it. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota, and I have been pretty swamped. I have two backdrop sites that are going live this month, along with personal stuff. Just haven't had a lot of backdrop time, but yeah, still trying to hang in there. So nothing big to report. Hoping to get out mountain biking soon. That's all. Gregory, you're next.
I'm Greg. So like representing both Europe or a part of Europe and Australia, and it's the 16th here. So actually 15 minutes ago. So yeah, I'm usually in Australia, but now I'm back home due to COVID in Greece, joining for like the regular catch up and see how I can help with things. But yet life's busy as well. Onboarding new people at work drains a lot of my energy, but yeah, I hope to get back into things. And Olaf.
Hi, I'm Olaf from Hamburg in Germany. I guess I'm also busy, so all of us. And yeah, I'm a member of the BMC, building a lot of backdrop websites for quite a long time. And yeah, also just wanted to check in and maybe also another time discuss the 80% rule of thumb. But not sure if I have the energy to do it today.
All right, let's see. In the last week, we've had one new contributed module. It's called Multiple Selects, which is pretty funny. I hadn't heard of that module before I started working on the spreadsheet for the site I'm working on to figure out which modules are ready, and it was on the list, and I went to check and was like, it just got ported. So thank you, whoever ported it. Timing's miraculous. But yeah, very exciting. On our backdrop websites themselves, we have an ongoing issue, backdropcms.org, for supporting more information in info files. I believe this change has been deployed, both merged and deployed.
I know it's merged. I'm not sure if it's deployed.
I think it is. I think we did a update. We did a backdrop security update or something, and it got pushed with the update. So I think it's there. I'm not sure Doc Walnut knows that. I will put something in the issue to make sure so that he can start testing with his contrib projects. I don't know if there's anything else we should talk about for backdropcms.org in the outreach meeting. There was some discussion at the end about how to better manage the issue queue. So maybe we should just say, if you're interested in that, you can go watch the outreach video. Do you want to add something, Greg? No?
Nope.
Okay. It looked like you were excited.
Well, just clarify, better manage the community portion of the issue queue.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm always excited.
Our API website is now called the Docs website. I don't know where things are on the Docs site, but I'm not sure if there's any change this week from last. And our event site, we just talked about a little bit too. We're going to have a Backdrop Live event coming up in the next month and a half. So we're going to make some updates there, but nothing super critical that needs to be talked about today. And then for Backdrop progress report, this is something that Nate usually does, but he is not around today. So I'm going to do my best to muddle through it. First, we usually talk about issues that are scheduled for our next bug fix release. And it looks like we've got two important issues to talk about today. One of them is PHP 8 support. I believe PHP 8 comes out in the fall. So we have a big issue here that Joseph has been working on a pull request to go through all of Backdrop and make sure that we don't get any deprecation notices or worse on PHP 8. It looks like the current pull request is marked needs work. Greg, it looks like you tested this recently. I don't know if you have any thoughts.
I haven't touched in a couple of weeks, so sorry. And I'm always having issues, computer issues when I'm on Zoom. So it's really slow. Bear with me.
So it doesn't look like the pull request has been updated since your last testing on this issue. So that still needs work. So okay if we move on to the next one?
Yep.
Okay. The next issue is number 4798. This is menu active trail gets confused when the same path is used in menu links for multiple languages. So I think I ran into this one. Yeah. It looks like we've got pull request marked works for me, but it's going to need some automated tests. Creating automated tests that match the steps provided in the pull request is hard, but I had an idea about how we could probably do it with a custom module that could recreate this scenario more simply. So I'll try and take a stab at that one. And that is it. So that's also going to be needs work for 1.18.3. I don't know if anyone else has any other critical bugs we want to talk about. There's obviously a lot of minor bugs.
The queue now, there's like 78 open tickets in that milestone. There's one only closed. I see a couple, maybe more, 3 that are TBC, but they do need some feedback. Yeah, but nothing comes to mind that's super critical.
Okay.
Perhaps we can add that fatal error on homepage when common module is uninstalled.
Oh yeah, that would be a good one.
Yeah, that's 4908.
This one is RTBC, so it should go in at any moment, which would be great. But I'll drop it in here. Essentially what happens is if you uninstall the comment module, your homepage will break. But if you uninstall it again, then it's fine. So yeah, it's a little tricky, but we'll fix it so that when you uninstall it the first time, it'll work. Okay, someone asked for the dev meeting agenda. I'm just gonna post the links into
I was the one that asked and Tim did it.
Oh,
Okay, no worries.
a little late. That's my speed today, slightly slow.
No worries.
Okay. Where were we at? Okay, comment, RTBC. Comment fatal. Next issue, we're moving on to now new features. So these are features that are expected to be included in Backdrop 119, which will have feature freeze on May 1st and be released on May 15th. The first one is on the media library dialogues. When you go to add an image or a document and you want to browse the existing items on your site, there is a filter there for exposed filter in views. One of them has a file name option in it, or we wanted to add one with a file name option in it, and Laren's been working on it. He's got it working, but needs some help with a pull request, which looks like it's got some complicated JavaScript in it. There's no feedback on this yet, but
Yeah, I think that last time was that Nate might have a look at it at some point.
okay. Or anyone, if anyone has JavaScript expertise and wants to weigh in on that, we could use your help there too.
Yep.
Next one, advanced caching. This is exciting. This is cache tags in core. So cache tags are something that everybody really loves about Drupal 8. There is a Drupal 7 module that can do the same thing. Joseph has been working on getting cache tags going for Backdrop, which would be a killer feature. And that issue is number 4127. It's currently marked, needs code review, needs testing. I'd be willing to give that one a test. It's probably going to be hard to check all the tags, but I can at least make sure my sites still work. Step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think that last time the comment that I made was that the way that I usually test such features is that I try to find, for example, documentation or articles that describe how this is done in D8 or D7, and then I try to mimic it in Backdrop and see if it works. I think that Joseph said that he would add a few steps to sort of like test things just to give us an idea. I'm not sure if he's done that though.
Yeah, I think I could probably do that too, based on my recent experience with Drupal 9. Like putting a node on the front page and then changing the node and checking to see if the front page updates. We already have that sort of promoted thing. That would be pretty easy to do in Backdrop. So there's probably a lot more tags than just that. So we could like check the ones we can find, but checking all of them is going to be tricky.
Yeah, I think it's mostly like even not mostly, but also like views. If one node gets updated and you have a views block somewhere, make sure that that gets refreshed without the rest of the, yeah.
Let's see. Next one, field has value visibility condition. I've got a work in progress on this one, but Taquama had a fantastic contrib module I wanted to integrate in, which is better. So this is still marked needs work. Next one is relationships as an addition to contexts. So this is, again, trying to recreate functionality from panels, which we have most of in Backdrop. They do not have context or relationships for Drupal core. So this would set us one step ahead, which would be nice. We have a pull request from Taquama. Looks like it still needs testing.
So that issue was previously held captive because of the .info file thing. That's not a blocker there. I guess it's a matter of Docwell finding time to work on it again.
Okay.
I haven't seen it in a while.
He's got a pretty good recent comment on there.
Yeah.
Explain some things, which is nice. Next is merge the update core module theme layout pages into a single page.
Yep. So I promised to Inigo Zella that I'll get back to it, and I did get to work on my local. I'm just tweaking a few things. Should be able to push final changes this weekend. And yeah, we're really close. As in, I'm really confident that it's going to get in. The only blocker was that. So everything was tested, everything was working as expected. The only problem was that with the previous changes, when there was an error when with the sorry, I lost my train of thought. The dashboard update module, sorry, the dashboard update block, which didn't show correct information, and then it showed an error. This is fixed now.
Great.
Not in the pull request, on my local. I'll push the changes as soon as I get it.
Okay. I'd love to give that a test when you have it up. I'm really looking forward
And
to it.
in the meantime, we also got the deprecated path thing. So
Nice.
that will work now. It was one of the blockers, soft blockers, but still, yeah.
Nice.
Nice when things fall along.
And save as draft module, BWPN has been really busy lately and has removed himself as advocate for that one.
Yeah.
So if we want that for 119, it's going to need another advocate until we get one. I'm going to pull it off the weekly meeting list.
Sure.
All right. More issues. If you're curious about what we're working on for 119, there are issues that don't get talked about every week. They are slated in the milestone labeled 1.19. Okay. Initiative updates. I don't know if we have anyone here to give us updates on initiatives, but documentation, our unofficial initiative. It sounds like Tim, Greg, you guys were talking about a lot of progress in the outreach meeting today, at least
So-
planning wise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the documentation initiative has a lot of moving parts. One of it was merging API and docs into a docs site. That has happened. There's a few things that we still need to tweak. I'm not sure where we're at with the WYSIWYG editors being used for specific content types, but that's not a blocker. There were some discussions, and I think Robert, which is on the call, mentioned that they would like to contribute to documentation. So we discussed about giving more people author access. Hey, Robert. I've also been trying to do a lot of vanilla D7 to backdrop upgrades. So I'm trying to update the documentation. Then Serverstreet is looking to produce guides for producing video tutorials. So there's a lot of moving things. There's a lot of progress, but nothing specific for anything exciting, super exciting. I mean,
Robert, do you have an account on the docs site already? Yeah.
I have, I'm not sure. I have accounts on many something
Yes.
backdrop sites, but I'm not sure if I have on docs. Let me just look very quickly.
We are working on fixing this, just very slowly.
So-
Let's see. No, I have a plain vanilla events forum survey and Zulip chat, but not
Okay.
docs.
If you want to register on docs, we can make you an editor there.
Okay, I will.
So Robert expressed some reservation about just editing things without like the option to have somebody review it. And I have often felt that same hesitation. And so this just adding more people, giving them more permissions, doesn't solve that larger problem, which is it's just really hard for people to submit ideas for changes. And we need to figure that out. And, we've been talking about this documentation initiative, but I think that was always intended to be fairly limited in scope, which was just to pull stuff onto one website.
well,
We have bigger issues around documentation, but that initiative was never set to solve those bigger problems, and we need to figure that out.
one of the things which is related to this whole discussion is that we didn't just there were multiple reasons for merging the API and the documentation into a docs site, but one of them was that we wanted to allow at some point the same functionality as in d.org, which is comments on the actual documentation, or we were considering that, so that people can actually suggest or maybe even provide feedback that, yeah, this is working for me, this is not working. And now that we decoupled that from the actual, the main site, we can sort of more safely allow comments, but we haven't actually actioned that or decided how we're going to go about it, because there's other considerations like spam and so on.
Yeah. I do also think we have revisions on the site. So if you're not sure about a change, you're welcome to make it, but make a revision. So that way, if you talk to someone about it later, you can revert to the previous version. That's a good, safe thing to do. We don't have a solution for the I want someone to see it before I publish it problem. But
Right.
we do have the ability to do that in core. We just don't have a UI for it. So we could add something that would enable that for us. It just would take some development work.
Sure. Does the revisions provide any kind of a diff file though? Because I want if I would feel more comfortable making a change, publishing it, if I could then say, Gregory, go look, and I knew that Gregory could zero in on what I changed. But
Yeah,
if
we
he's
can
just
add,
looking at, go ahead.
we can add the diff module and then it'll highlight the parts of the page that have changed. Yeah. Okay, so
Don't we, what offers the diff functionality? Don't we have diff functionality for config import?
yes, but the diff module provides the differences between revisions, and that is not in core.
Okay.
And there is a contrib version of the diff module. I just checked on it today, so we could include that. We have the color coding in core, but we don't have the revision diffing.
Okay, thanks.
Greg, can you create an issue for me on the doc site to add the diff module and maybe just some miscellaneous issue about wanting to preview a change before it goes live? I can do that.
So one would be add diff module, and then the other one.
Request the ability to preview a change before it goes live.
Okay.
And then that way we could like send, like Tim could send you a link that's like, does this look okay? And you can say yes. Right now we don't have that ability. You have to publish it in order for someone to see it.
So I think that the diff module does revision diffing. So yeah, okay, cool.
Okay. And then let's see, are you on here now? No. Right. Well, Robert, if you create an account on there, just ping me and we'll at least get you access, though it does not solve all the problems. Anything else on documentation? No. How about telemetry?
Nope,
No. Okay.
no update.
And then theme stuff, making themes easier for people who don't have front-end development skills.
So I actually seem to be denied access to register, user
Oh.
register on Docs.
Huh. I wonder if that was intentional or not. Might have
You don't
been.
like me.
It might have been. Okay.
I don't want to waste time in the meeting. We can take this offline.
Okay. You should have gotten an email. We'll see what happens. All right. Next, general discussion, open Q&A. There's an item on here that says better, less US-centric handling of scheduled meeting times, but I think we're doing that.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Olaf mentioned that he wants to discuss the 80% thingy. I think it's a good.
also,
we have a
said
good
he
amount
didn't
of
have energy for that today, so let's not put any pressure on him.
Yeah, maybe
Do
not
you-
today.
Okay, not today, but maybe
But-
we add it for next time. We add it
Okay.
on the agenda for next time.
But I have another thing to
Okay.
mention, because recently, occasionally, I talk with people who are willing to help with backdrop translations, and as you know, I'm a bit managing the translation website, and so that works quite good with some people, but there are others who register and then I communicate with them, but then they stop doing things. And I think it has a lot to do with that the website doesn't work so good in some aspects. And there are other issues. For example, the documentation is not very good. I can try to fix that when I find time, but I can't fix the issues with the website, so some functionality. And So from time to time, I mention you, Jen, in respective issues, but I have the impression you don't find time to do something there. So, but you're at the moment the only person who I can ask.
Okay.
So I was thinking about yeah, what to do. So and if it's possible to find another person, but I guess that's not so easy.
Yeah.
Or if we maybe try to find mm, an a sprint meeting or something where we could try to fix as many as possible of these issues together.
Yeah, it would be easier if this was ported to Backdrop, by the way.
If
It would make a lot of things easier. But that
Yeah,
takes time. I understand it takes time.
problem we're having with the website are, well, I don't know, you probably know better than I do, Olaf, but I tried to go in there recently to figure out how to translate things, and it's almost like a user experience problem, just trying to find where you're supposed to go to do certain things as a contributor. Or I feel like if you're downloading things, we've done a pretty good job of making it so that you can find what you want. But if you're like, okay, I have this translation, how do I get it in, is really hard. And I think that what we could do is spend some more time looking at how Drupal solved those problems on the Drupal localized site and trying to replicate that, because I think what we have now is sort of just the modules installed and we haven't really thought through the whole process. I think there's a lot we could do on Drupal 7 just by sort of putting the pieces together in different ways, or building more views or more landing pages or whatever to help people get to where they're going. But there are, so if we port the whole thing to Backdrop, we could do that too. But now we're possibly introducing issues with the translation system in addition to the usability problems. And I'm not sure that just porting it is going to solve some of the usability problems. Olaf, are there also other technical things that aren't working properly on the?
Yes, there are some smaller bugs. So I have to look again through it, but there are some, and there are also things I have to compare because also I'm not an expert. I've never translated in Drupal, for example. So, and Robert Garrigos helped me to set this up, and he had more experience, and I don't know how things are supposed to work. For example, at the moment, if you translate via the user interface, you don't have the option to directly translate, but it's automatically gets or becomes only a suggestion. And it's not clear to me if it has to do with the change which we made long time ago for the import. So as a side effect, for example. So I have to look again in it. So translating via uploading a file works fine, I think, but people, not necessarily know that that's the best way. So it's also a documentation issue. And for that reason, I think it would be good if we would find one day, for example, in a month or in 2 months, where we can make
To
such
schedule a sprint,
Yeah, I think that would be really valuable because I can help with some of the little technical challenges, but I think that what we really need is someone to sort of study the bigger issue of like, how can we make this easier for everyone to contribute translations? And I think, fixing, like looking into why you can't just do it in the UI would be good. I also saw like a couple of errors that sometimes pop up. Those little things I think I could commit to, but I don't have time to sort of sit down and be like, how is this supposed to work? And same thing with you all. If I haven't done a lot of translating Drupal strings, I've only translated websites that, are running Drupal. So yeah, I think there is sort of a studying that needs to happen there that I am unable to find time for, but if we could set aside a day to do a sprint, I think that would be good. And we could get, some more minds like Greg, you're really good at information architecture stuff and user experience stuff.
Not the
think
first
you
one, but the
are,
second
you're
one
making
is-
a face. But like figuring out how to organize things. So yeah, I think we could get some minds together and hash out some of the problems with the translation system.
Yeah. And
Go ahead.
yeah, one other important thing is, I guess, the forum issue. I don't know if you remember, we had the idea if we can use the forum for discussions around translation, and it would be good. And I think that's not possible at the moment to have a section in the forum for translations, but then a single
easy,
forum
actually.
for each language.
Oh,
So because at the moment you can only post topics in the general translation forum, and I think every translation group, every language needs
Its
a
own.
forum. And
So
then I think a
I
lot
think
of these issues.
technically that like architecturally, all we need to do is make sure that our taxonomy terms can have structure and we can create those forums, but they're not going to be displayed in a way that's pretty, because the page that lists all the topics doesn't show the indentation. So we can build those places to talk as long as it, you're okay with it not looking really great for a while. And then we can have a follow-up issue that's like, let's put these on the page in a way that you can tell that they're children items of translation.
I see, yeah.
So I think if the urgency is around finding a place to talk, we can definitely set that up first. And then at least everyone will have a place to go to have those conversations. And then we can clean up the display later.
Yeah, I think it would be very helpful, because now I write emails to people and they say contact me in Zulip, but some people do, but others not. And then also I saw some wrote a post on the translation site and they thought I would get noticed about it, which I never did. And so, and then they were concerned, well, why doesn't he answer me and such things? And if we had one official place, that would be very helpful, I think. So,
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
I did see your comment on that issue. So I'll go back there and see what we can set up.
Good. Yeah. Thanks so far.
Anything else we should talk about today?
I have two issues specifically, but before I selflessly sort of like flag those issues, maybe anyone else wants to talk about something? No? Okay. I'm gonna bring up one that is a blocker of a blocker for a thing that you love, Jen. It's the WordPress like sort of like login page.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I think that we needed to deprecate a variable, or was it a permission? A permission that is, yeah, okay. So the issue that I want,
administration theme or something.
yes, that's the one. So I think we have consensus of that. It's like the backwards compatibility layer on top of that. So bear with me. How did I come to this? Okay, let me start.
Make a module for that?
Sorry?
Did I make a module for that? How did we decide to fix that problem? Do you know?
So I have an idea, but I'm not sure if people agree with it. Let's start with one of the issues, because there's like a trail of like 3 at least issues to your issue. So let's start with this one, which I know is a result of that. It's issue 531. And then I'll find it. So
install issues.
So 5031, it's consolidate all functions that generate permission matrices.
Okay.
All right. So there's code duplication, which is blocking me from doing things, useful things with other things there. So I'm basically consolidating the generation of matrices into a single function. So I don't know like it seems selfish because no one else has commented on that, but I would like to get it in sooner if people agree, or if they disagree, just let me know on the issue. And then the reason why I'm mentioning it is because if you scroll to the bottom, there's a link to 5030, which is what I was sort of like making an entrance to a prelude to, is provide a mechanism to deprecate permissions.
And if the permissions were always drawn by the same function, it would be really easy to indicate deprecation.
I guess, yes. And so what I've worked on my local with is I have worked around deprecating permission. So each time this permission is called, they will, or used by a module or a hook, there will be a notice on status page so that people know. And I've also implemented some sort of redirect. And the reason why I implemented the redirect is Peter's issue, which is 3787. So there's heaps of related issues that could benefit from that, but I'm not sure if that's the right way. So all I need is feedback on these issues. So Peter started this with the problem that all permissions use spaces instead of underscores. And then everyone's saying if we do that, then that's a breaking change. But with the pull request, sorry, I didn't have a pull request. I have it on my local. With the fix that I have for this 5030 issue, I can tackle both issues. Deprecating, like removing permissions, and then what happens if another module happens to be using it, and also redirecting permissions from, like, provide an alias for permissions. So if you have a permission that it uses underscores instead of spaces, it gets redirected to the underscores. Sorry, if you have one that has spaces, you can get redirected to the one. Yeah.
I like all these things.
It's basically backwards compatible or allowing us to move forward. So whoever has some time to sort of like have a look, please have a look. But that consolidation of the functions that produce the matrices, we've already used it for content types, I think, and then vocabularies, and also I think the contact module. And we basically duplicate all these functions all the time. So yeah.
Yeah, I like that too, because I think if we provide a really easy way for somebody to add a permissions matrix to their interface, people will do it more often. Where right now it's a big pain because you have to go find the code that does it somewhere else and copy it and make it work for your scenario. Where if it's like, here's a function that does it for you, I think Contrib would end up a better user experience for it. So I like that idea. It makes me a little nervous just because we're dealing with permissions. But I think we can do it with adequate testing, whether automated or manual or both. I like this idea of getting rid of the spaces in the machine names. I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the reason we have spaces is because there was a point in time when there were no keys. And the only thing that the permissions went off was a human readable name of that permission. And so that what they eventually did is they're like, oh, we need a key. And so then they were duplicated. So there's a human readable name, and the human readable name was the key as well as the value. And now we've gotten a little bit more sophisticated, but because we have all these legacy permissions that have the human readable name in there with the spaces.
Was that Drupal 6 or?
I think it was Drupal 5.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't live through that, so.
So it is definitely a vestige of the past that we can get rid of. I like the idea of having sort of a backwards compatibility layer where we can say, oh, if you say, a lot of Contrib modules use other modules permissions. And so there's going to be a lot of updating things that has to get done over time. So having a way where you can say, oh, well, you have one with spaces, just replace it with underscores and use that instead is good. We should probably do some performance testing on that though. Just to make sure that whatever checking we do in there, because there's a lot of permission checks on a page load, isn't going to cause significant slowdown.
Yeah, so the way that I tackled that on my thing is that you have I can't remember now because it's been a couple of weeks since I filed the pull request. So you have a name for the permission, like a key, it says the name, then a description. And what I've added is a new key that is called alias. So if you have that alias, it points to another proper canonical sort of like permission that should be used now. I'm not sure about the permission, but yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So it's not actually doing any replacing. It's just saying does this exist or this exist? So it basically changed every check for one permission into a check for two, which is probably not quite as expensive, but maybe we should still test it.
Yes, so, yeah, I agree.
Um,
And as I said, I'm not sure if your architecturally is correct. I just sort of like try to solve that problem.
yeah,
And with regards to those functions being consolidated with this specific issue, there's an older issue which I mentioned in the issue summary, and that's 3332, which I suggested that we make the permission matrices a form API thing, which is of type permissions, and then you specify a list of permissions, like an array of permissions. But because I have never worked on creating form API elements, and I don't know what's involved, I just chose to sort of like reduce the amount of code duplication that we have by introducing a new function for now, which seems like the easier road.
yeah, I really like the idea of a form API element. I might take a look at that and see. I mean, there's no reason we can't do both, right? And have the form API element call the function. The only thing I could see is in the future if contrib wants to call the function and we want them to use the form API element instead. But yeah, I think either's probably fine.
Yeah, either way, any feedback on those issues, how we should move forward. Yeah. And then again, if no one else needs to sort of like shamelessly promote any issue that they're interested in, I have another one.
Okay.
All right, and bear with me because my computer is crawling today. It's 5035, which is a cross-port of what has already been committed to D7. It's the flight controls for check, sort of like check that was committed recently. And the feedback that I want there is the way that they introduced it in D7 is a settings PHP setting, but we already have a UI where we have other flood control things there. So should it be just the settings, sorry, just the UI, or should it be settings PHP or both? Well, actually the question with both is like, if it's a setting, then we have config overrides. So it can be a mention in settings. Anyway, so I need feedback on that, and that's it.
Okay.
And I created a draft change record as well.
Nice. Okay, interesting. And this is in Drupal 7,
Yes.
but not in Backdrop?
Yeah. So it was committed recently, like in April 7th or something.
But it's not in a recent release yet?
No, it's not in a release. It's committed.
Okay.
It's committed, and there's a change record for it, but it hasn't been in any release. There hasn't been a release like in a few months now for D7.
Okay, so I was just asking so that when we do get the next Drupal 7 release, I would know if this was in there already. So we're sort of getting ahead of it a little bit, which is nice.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that was it.
Say something to me about that process, because it just came up in Zulip, where we're cross-porting all of these updates, and I'm sure it's been explained to me before, but I've forgotten.
Okay, so here's how it works. If it's a feature that it's worth having, we don't have to wait for a D7 release. If it has been committed, like if it has actually been committed in a dev version for D7, we may release it sooner than them because it might take them months, right, to make a release. Sometimes there's things that are RTBC, which have not been approved necessarily for Drupal, but we decide that it's good for Backdrop, and they've been waiting for like years and years, RTBC by many community members, which we also include. If we don't do any of that, soon as an official release of D7 comes out, we check the commit history between last commit and this one, sorry, last version and this one, and we make sure that we create an issue with a list of whether this applies to Backdrop or not, and we walk through the commits and we sort of like cross-port them. So that's what happens with D7 core. We have certain contrib modules though, which like the most prominent ones are views or the admin menu or path auto, which we don't monitor as closely. So it's usually, if it's bugs, someone's going to report it and someone's going to figure out that, hey, this has been reported in the D7 module, so let's grab the fix that they also implemented.
I did recently go through, I think it was Path Auto and Redirect had releases, and I started making metas for those. So we have a project in our GitHub queue for Drupal 7 crossports. And then there's a meta issue that lists all of our contrib projects, and every one of those links to a meta for multiple releases for each project. So we've got it all mostly tracked, even though we don't have all of the projects on the latest version right now. We at least have issues to make them that way. And not every commit gets into, there's a bunch of stuff that, you know, affects parts of Drupal 7 core that we've removed from Backdrop, like dashboard module or whatever, and those we just ignore. And then there are some things that happen in contrib that don't align with our values. Like I've seen a bunch of stuff in Drupal 7 where they're converting to the short array syntax, but we don't yet have that as part of our coding standard. So we'll exclude that commit from ours until that gets in. So there's just a little bit of review that happens on all of the commits that are in the Drupal project before they get merged into the Backdrop project.
Yeah, and there's a mix of small changes which are like straightforward, and there's bigger changes or components like views which are more, you know, elaborate, which need more testing. And it's basically, it's not hard. It's most, you know, tedious and time consuming, but it's straightforward how to do it. Or that's my experience as well, at least, sorry. It's just, it needs time to get done. Once we have more hands on deck, it will happen faster, sooner.
Berger and I think, are the ones who've been doing the most of the crossports. There's something, and I think it's in both of our personalities, that we really like checking off things on the checklist. And
Yes.
these are ones where you can just be like, check, 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 check. And so it makes that part of you feel very satisfied when you get done with
so
all those issues.
It's sort of like that for me, but on top of that is, first of all, OCDs. So if I see something that is a problem, I need to know that is, even if I don't fix it, there's at least a task that it gets done in the future. But then I get some weekends where I'm sort of like fed up with work, or even with working on a tedious problem in Backdrop, and then I say I want to do something light. I'll just do those crossports. So that's how it works. And I wish we had more people like that, so we'd get more things done.
Would it be helpful to like, I don't know, show people how a demo of how that you do that, just so that people understand maybe how easy it is, or what
It's
I mean,
basically
maybe this
finding
is the kind of thing I could do, but I wouldn't even consider it right now because
that could be a
I don't understand.
user group, a virtual user group thing, a bit more technical, but still.
Well,
It might
it's
also just make a good little video too,
Right.
like a little 5-minute, 10-minute, like, hey, I'm tired of doing whatever. I'm going to do something light that feels nice. And then like, ding, 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 here you go. So
some of the things start getting you into rabbit holes, like the second, I think there was a second issue that was mentioned again at Crossport today. And we have gotten rid of stub entities in D7. So there was a function that was saying something stub entity create whatever, and we got rid of that, and we have a change record for that. But there was also a, bear with me, field test create stub entity, which we didn't provide a backwards compatibility, which is in that change, sorry, the D7 change, which we need to bring in. So my first reaction was that, oh, there's a function here. Do we have a respective function for us? And I searched the API, I couldn't find anything, which led me to the commit, which did the changes. And we took care of the main stub create thing, but not the test one. But again, it's all very straightforward, and it's a good use case. So team, maybe it could be a snap, what you call a virtual user group thing, because it's not always 1, 2, 3, like fix that. It's usually try to find similar bits of code between and similar files, which are basically 90% of that between D7 and D8 and the change, and then take that change one at a time. And usually there might be a function called Drupal do something, and we have a respective Backdrop do something. So that's all you have to do, change it. And maybe add a parameter or two. Jen, you're muted, by the way.
we're going to have to wrap this up because we need the room.
Okay,
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Thanks everybody for joining.
bye. I'm gonna go ahead and end it.